In a world where we have a lot of white supremacists, we have people who doesn't recognize that what they did to blacks wasn't right. We also have the other side of the world. We have people who really are sorry for what happened, and I think that this is just the start of change. And as you can see, things are really changing because white folks today are coming out in large numbers to apologize to black people for what happened. And some people still will say that, slavery happened a long time ago and it's not something that we should be talking about today. Slavery doesn't exist. It's something that is not there, right? One thing that's happening is this. There are systems, and these systems are put to favor black people, and these systems are put to keep black people poor. People who knows the truth are these people that always comes out to apologize and calls out the government, the system, the people who calls out how their ancestors were. But again, I usually say that it's upon black people themselves to decide what they want to do with these all types of apology. It's upon you to decide if you really want to take the apology or you don't want to take the apology. But the most important things sheds light to how some white people feel about their race, about how white people feel on the wrongs that they did to black people. And I'll say that we have good white people and we have bad white people. Just like American scholars have said, we have good white people and bad white people. And so I just want you to hear these apologies of what these people are trying to say, and then you let me know what you think about it and what they say about themselves, because they're trying to call out themselves for what they did. And I think it's important if we, talk about this, because what some white people have been coming out trying to talk about, is it that it is a guilt that is happening right now, or is it that they accentuate that they need to come out and talk about this? I most definitely want to know how you feel about this. This is a presenter Generic Stories. Kindly let's watch the video. I'll be back with my commentary.
I'm tired of what my people have done, what they continue to do. I'm sick of it. I'm tired of seeing people suffer. I'm tired of the inequality. And you ought to give a too.
Hey friend, white guilt and shame is a problem that white people experience because they cannot tolerate stressful situations, and they especially cannot tolerate situations where they're confronted about white supremacy or about race. So it's a form of dirty pain, which Menachem describes in his book, which is a type of pain where we are sitting in our wounds and refusing to heal them. So we are becoming cruel or violent. We are running away. We are just emotionally disassociating ourselves. And all of this creates more dirty pain. So white guilt and shame is a way that white people reassert their right to be white by just reprocessing trauma and pain and tension and conflict instead of confronting the reality that white supremacy is just deadly poison.
If I sound really angry, when I have a heavy energy right now when I make this TikTok, I can't help it. Something happened in Texas, in a Texas school, elementary school to be exact. Just happened. As the school was getting ready for its school year, and teachers and admin were hanging up all kinds of welcoming posters and stuff on the walls. One of the posters was a picture of two hands holding on to each other. It didn't show the children, just their hands hanging on to each other. One was a black hand and one was a white hand. And some parents called and complained and said that that was politicizing and that it needed to come down. And the trustee of that school on the school board said, I agree. That's politicizing and that needs to come down. The picture of a black child and a white child holding hands needed to come down. I want everybody to pause for a second and think about this. And when this trustee was asked, well, what about all of the Bible verses that are now being hung around this public school? Isn't that politicizing? She refused to answer. I highly recommend, if you have not found on TikTok, conveniently, an 8-part presentation by Dr. Joy Angela DeGroy. I hope I said her name correctly. And it's called The Post-Traumatic Slave Syndrome. I highly recommend you take the time to watch it. In one of the parts, it talks about a law that was passed. It was passed as a result of slave owners that beat their slaves to death because they didn't follow instructions. Do you know how hard it is to beat somebody until they die? What kind of rage has to be inside that person, and how much they are dehumanizing that beautiful soul in front of them? They passed a law that said, should this happen, that a slave not follow instructions and they are beat to death by their white slave owner, that slave owner cannot be held responsible. They cannot be convicted. They cannot be charged. They cannot be made to feel bad whatsoever because it was 100% the slave's fault. Okay? Do you want to know why I'm bringing that up? Because when you take a look at all these white nationalist evangelical Republicans today, including those on Moms for Liberty taking over these school boards, and you see their coldness, the steel coldness in their eyes when people come in and cry and plead and try to have fruitful conversation and get them to see the error of their ways when they behave like this, it's because according to Dr. DeGroy, most of the beatings until the slaves were killed were by white women beating black children to death. I want you to take that in so you understand, everybody understands what we're really dealing with here. There's not just segregation being attempted here. There's segregation reverting back to the kind of dominion white evangelicals had over every person with any kind of pigment. Okay? That's what's happening. So whatever was in those women's cold, dead hearts when they sat there beating these black children to death for not following instructions, that kind of DNA, whatever that evilness is what has infected the white evangelical Republican movement today. I said what I said.
Why is it that white folks support anti-blackness, race, and white supremacist culture in so many goddamn ways? Why is it that we support it through our silence, our defensiveness, our denial, that code of silence? Let's not talk about it. Let's ignore it. All that gymnastics, that defensiveness, the anger, the passive aggressiveness, the stereotyping, the overt, covert racism, all the that we do, the gaslighting, all that we do as white people. Why can't we just leave black people the alone? Why? Because we were taught that. It's our culture. White supremacist culture is American culture. It's European culture. We see ourselves as overseers. We ourselves as entitled to control and judge black people. White Americans wanted, back in the day, we demanded black people be segregated, right? So we segregated. Black people said, okay, great. We're going to make our own. They started doing great. What did we do? We burned their communities down to the ground. And you got to sit in your silence? You ought to be ashamed of yourself for not giving a every single one of you. that can't talk about it, that spews narratives, stereotypes, denial, gaslight. That's not their reality. Telling black people what the they should think, feel, do, be, you, do better. Reject your training, your indoctrination. Question your own goddamn morality racially for once in your life. I'm tired. I'm tired of what my people have done, what they continue to do. Sick of it. I'm tired of seeing people suffer. I'm tired of inequality. And you ought to give a too.
This is my last message addressed to the people of South Africa. I, without qualification, apologize for the pain and the hurt and the indignity and the damage that apartheid has done to black, brown, and Indians in South Africa. I do so not only in my capacity as the former leader of the National Party, but also as an individual. My conversion, to which I refer, didn't end with the admission to myself of the total unacceptability of apartheid. It motivated us in the National Party to take the initiatives we took. From the time that I became leader of the National Party, and more specifically during my presidency. The road forward is a difficult one. But I firmly believe that if we take hands, and if all the reasonable people in South Africa put their heads together, we can overcome the challenges we face, and we can fulfill the tremendous potential that South Africa has.
I speak, I'm going to ask the white Americans in the room to please repeat after me. On behalf of myself and on behalf of my country. To you and all African Americans, from the beginning of our nation's history, in honor of your ancestors and on behalf of your children, please hear this from my heart. I apologize. Please forgive us. With this prayer, I acknowledge the depth of the evils that have been perpetrated against black people in.
Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. You can see for yourself that the world is going back to where it was. You know, initially the system favored white people. The system is no longer strong the way it was. The Babylon is falling. Also, white people are crying about the cost of living, like it's just hard for everyone. It's no longer that much hard for only black people the way it used to be. It's hard for everyone, right? And this shows you the reforms. And like white people are now seeing to it that they need to work together with black people, who initially they never considered because the system was trying to favor them. For you to see a person coming out online discussing how they feel about certain things, this shows you that deep down this thing is hitting them. It's hitting them because they have seen, they have learned, and they know the truth that most of the things that they did was wrong, or most of the things that their ancestors did wasn't right. So just to say, it's important that we always need to talk about this. We always have to see and learn from the mistakes. They need to learn from the mistakes that their ancestors did, because the system is failing and the Babylon is falling. It's high time people start asking for forgiveness, because there are a number of things which are happening, and then you're asking yourself, what's happening? We are seeing a lot of white people coming to ask for forgiveness. This never happened before. Some were crazy enough to say that they can't apologize. Racism is something which happened long ago. You know what I'm saying? So just seeing that itself makes me think a lot of things. And I'm glad that we are alive to witness these people who are saying the truth. Because you know that the truth shall always set people free. And I think it's at that point that they are trying to make themselves free. It is at that point that they are learning and they are knowing the history that wasn't given to them. They are learning that part of bitter history that they were not told. While black people had to learn it through blood and sweat, they are right now learning it. And at least those who have some human heart in them, they feel sorry for what really happened. I want you to tell me what you think about this in the comment section. I really want to know how you feel about this. This is a presenter Gene Talk Stories. And until then, peace, love, and harmony. Salute.